for another week back in the friendly confines of Arnold's Creek Recreation Reserve this week. We've done the road tour for the last couple of weeks. We thought it's time to get back and taste some home cooking for at least another week anyway, before obviously Interleague next week. Shaun Kelly's my name. Back joining me this week after his illness last week is Chris Yeendy. Welcome back, mate.
Thanks, mate. It's hard to keep this seat warm. Nabby did a magnificent job last week.
You did?
I heard you didn't get much talking in.
Not a lot at all.
Pretty standard. But guys did a magnificent job, and magnificent weekend of footy netball that we had recently. So it's all cruising here for a big weekend and into the Interleague.
Yeah, it's going to be a big week coming up this week. But before we look at that, let's touch back on the major talking points of the last 7 days in the RDFL. And since we last went to air, or well, not since we last went to air, but since we last had a discussion, senior Interleague team to take on the Albion Footy League has been named. Yeendy, you can see the team up on the screen at the moment. Your standouts from the team, and a pretty big squad pick to start off with.
It definitely is, and I honestly don't think there's too many surprises as well for what we're seeing in the squad. A lot of great performances. Stepped up on the big stage last year. Obviously, we don't have Zach Sard in there who did very well last year, but we've got some great pace in there. For me, one of the most informed ruckmen in the competition, Jordan Brady there from Rupert's.
Doing a good job.
He did reasonably well in the campaign last year as well, from memory. So, look, he's going to be a big standout for mine, and look forward to seeing his progress into the carnival if he gets picked, which I reckon he should.
First training session tonight, not really leaving a lot of time for the squad to gel, I suppose, with a short lead in this year and obviously everything going on within the RDFL. They're very short training times and everything like that, but one thing we know that Matt Power is very thorough. He'll have scouted the opposition very well, he'll scouted his players very well. He'll already have an idea of who he wants to take down to Inverloch next weekend.
Definitely, and there was a ground change as well with the Interleague too. It was originally supposed to be down in Forster, but due to ground conditions in Gippsland, it's a lot of rain down there, Shawnee, they've played it safe, so they've moved it to Inverloch there, so why not go down for a weekend at the beach and watch some footy? That's my motto anyway for that weekend.
Don't quite know if it'll be beach weather, but we'll head down anyway, and we'll give you a full wrap on the WorkSafe Community Championships and the game against the Albion Footy League on next week's RDFL Footy Show, of course, looking at the Interleague game. Talking point number 2, a close weekend of footy. Obviously, last weekend there were a fair few blowouts. This weekend, some much closer games. And the pick of the bunch, the one that you saw and broadcast before the weekend, Highlands FM, out at Tony Clark Reserve between Macedon and Woodend Heskett.
It was one of the great matches I've seen in quite some time, Shawnee. The Cats, we know where they're at this season. They're going to be a powerhouse. We know they're one of the teams to beat. The Hawks really took it up to them. It was a really good game of momentum. One team would kick 3 goals, another one would come back and maybe kick 3 or 4. So it was one of those games that really ebbed and flowed, and goals just came at a frenetic pace, especially in the second half. Credit to the Cats though, they hit the front early in the, midway through the final term. Jason Cook had an absolute blinder.
As he tends to do.
He does, and he's, and look, we look at Interleague players that didn't get selected last year, and Cookie just missed out, but he's one of the informed players in the competition. He got 5 goals, and that we're going to make a big highlight again. That man again, nipper right, went forward in the last quarter, he set up a goal, and the magic started happening.
It didn't tend to happen. It happened on Anzac Day when he did the same thing, went forward and got them going, and just seems to be a bit of a barometer for the Cats at the moment, his little nip.
Yeah, exactly. It seems to be a bit of ace up Jeff Andrews' sleeve at this stage, but hats off to the Hawks. They played a brilliant brand of footy. They didn't leave anything in the tank on the day. And as a spectacle, as a neutral supporter, it was a really good game of footy to watch. I know the Hawks would be disappointed they didn't get the job done. The Cats were disappointed they couldn't put the Hawks away. But that shows the combative nature between the two sides, which is the great rivalry that it is.
It certainly is. And talking point number 3 for this weekend, we talk about rivalries. We put the rivalries with the men in green aside for this weekend. Community umpiring round across AFL Victoria, umpire appreciation round in the RDFL weekend to say thank you to the green men, much like yourself, Yeendy, running around in the green every Saturday morning, that obviously help to keep this game going. And as we know, we don't get umpires, we don't get footy.
Absolutely, that's exactly right, mate. And this weekend comes on the back of a great weekend from last week where we had Women's Appreciation Round in footy, and the game that we were at over at Tony Clark Reserve, we had young Jordan Aythorn, a young 16-year-old girl. She's doing an absolutely outstanding job on the boundary. We're starting to see more girls get involved in footy, and evenly enough on the umpire in front as well, so that's probably where I'm a little bit biased. So I think we've got some great talented umpires coming through our competition, and we want to see that continue to thrive. And hats off to all the clubs as well. They've been getting behind the young kids as well, who are prepared to go out there and have a go.
And the good thing is that obviously in the past we've heard a lot about people dropping out of umpiring because they're getting abused and everything like that. It's just not a hospitable environment. The good news is that the trends are the other way now. That there's not the abuse that there once was. There's people that aren't dropping out because they feel they're copying heaps on the field. It's really starting to become kind of socially unacceptable to be really feeding it to umpires all day long. A little bit now and then, catch them on their toes, but
yeah,
you can't just flat out give it to umpires. It's just not on anymore.
Exactly, and look, to be honest, we've I speak on behalf of the Riddell umpires to a degree, is that we lost a lot of depth over the course of the last couple of years, lost a lot of good quality umpires, but the training, the coaching going behind the scenes, it is going above and beyond what anything we've experienced in our competition ever. So while we're dropping off in experience, we're seeing plenty of great coaching going, making some of these young umpires coming through to be a heck of a lot better to fill their positions.
Just a few umpires just need to make sure that they know the game's not just all about them. Obviously, a good umpire isn't noticed on the ground. We just don't need a few standing out and just keep the structure and absolute minimum, I think, is what we need for the umpires. But they do a great job, and it's great to have the umpires up and about this weekend, and everyone saying thank you to all of our community umpires. Speaking of this weekend, let's take a look at it. Round 5 in the Riddell District Football and Netball League. Starting with Woodend Heskett, in form at the moment, doing pretty well last week, but they've got a big ask this week, so they take on the Sunbury Kangaroos side that have been in awesome form in the last couple of weeks, and have brought in a fairly handy recruit in the last 2 weeks, and Tom Allard as well, coming over from Doodle Stars. Kicked the point that won in the game against Rupert's Wood, and then kicked 5 under lights last week against Melton Centrals, and he's going along very nicely.
He certainly is, and he's just adding a little bit more pep to the artillery that Jared Dixon's got up his sleeve at the moment too. He's playing the Hawks, who are peaking at the right time at the moment. They've obviously been disappointed with their performance, and not to get the 4 points, they'll be happy, but they're playing as good a brand of football as they have in probably the last 2, 3, 4 years. So it's going to be a really good challenge. Football returns to the GGO for the second time this year. We're going to be thrilled to be there on the front of Highlands FM.
Highlands FM game this one.
We're pumped. Got to get behind it there. We're really looking forward to seeing the Sunbury Kangaroos in action. I've seen them once this year, and they're looking fantastic. So I'm looking forward to a really good contest.
Tip?
We've got to go to the Roos, unfortunately, even though the jumper says
I was going to say you're wearing the Woodend Heskett jumper today, but going to the Roos, I think Stuart Craigie will send you a please explain very, very well. Melton Centrals are taking on Riddell here at Arnold's Creek. The Centrals needing to rebound after a bit of a disappointing night last week at Eric Boardman Reserve, and Riddell also on the rebound after getting on the wrong end of a 15-point result against Rupert's Wood last weekend. Should be a reasonably interesting game. We know that Central's best footy can trouble a lot of teams. Riddell's best footy is probably better than most.
But how do you think the Bombers will cope on the bigger ground at Arnold's Creek?
Yeah, good point. Good point.
And maybe a little bit of moisture. The ground will probably be a little bit slippery on the foot given the rain that would have happened in the lead up to that. The Bombers have got a lot to prove here. We probably didn't expect the results to be so, convincing for Rupert's Wood. The way Rupert's Wood play with absolutely outstanding brand of footy. So the Bombers have got a lot to do to get their heads up there, and the Centrals have got a lot of great talent in the sheds, and I know they won't be happy with that 20-goal loss last week. In fact, I think they would have put everyone by surprise.
Which way are you heading in this one?
Got to go to the Bombers, but I don't think they're going to have it easy.
Yeah, Centrals at home is a bit of a different scenario we've seen even this year so far. Obviously, Riddell will come in favoured, and I reckon the bigger ground will suit their running game a little bit as well. More space to run, more space for Brian Ruffle to lead into, and obviously get the Dukes out and take some good marks and everything like that. But yeah, I just feel Riddell will have too much in the tank for them this weekend. Match of the round at the college, as Nabby was saying last week. Down at Solution College, Rupert's Wood taking on Diggers Rest, two of the informed teams in the league at the moment, and this should be an absolute ripper.
The courage that the Sharks have shown in the last 2 weeks. I mean, we date back to Anzac Day. They've got a few injuries to key players, and just the club itself is just firing from all cylinders, and I think they'll surprise a lot more supporters. But Steve Burlak drifting into the team. 4 goals last week, pretty handy to come back into the team. Yeah, just repeating success from the premiership from last year. So I think it's going to be great for the Sharks. They're definitely their depth is coming forward, and they're just playing some good, hard, courageous football. but they're up against Diggers Rest too.
They're pretty damn good this year at the moment. And haven't lost a game and don't look like losing one. Came over the top of Broadford on the weekend to get a win.
And the key thing you've got to look at the Borough is that their senior team's been performing well, but their reserves team has been absolutely exceptional. So you're looking for a team, a club that's got a lot of depth. This is the one. Anyone that's slipped up at the Borough, they've got half a dozen guys that are happy to step up at any given time and play their role.
Certainly do. Your tipping, please?
I'm going to have to go to the Boroughs just based on depth.
Hard to tip against Diggers Rest at the moment. Absolutely flying, but it says the team that's going to give them some trouble. It's Rupertwood at Salesian College this weekend. Broadford taking on Romsey, of course. No love lost between these two teams over the previous few years, and I can't see that to be any different, of course, with two-time Romsey Premiership coach Dean Helmers in charge at Broadford this year. And a Broadford side that got a bit of mojo back last week, but still sit zip 4 because they could not get the chocolates, whereas Romsey gave Lansfield a bit of a run, couldn't quite get over the line. This will be a very interesting game.
Yeah, the Redbacks have been kicking themselves. They let up a 4-goal lead halfway through the third term, and the Tigers ran over the top of them, so they're not going to be feeling too flash after that. But Broadford, they got the confidence they needed up against a really good quality side. I love how the Redbacks are travelling and all the work they're doing behind the scenes, but I just can't see them getting the job done here. Broadford's experience, especially you have someone there like Brody Holland in the team, he's still kicking a couple of goals. I'll tell you what, they're going to really put a fight up the Redbacks.
All they need to, because they're zip 4 at the moment. It's a long way back if they don't win this, and they cannot be winless going into the interleague break and want to play finals foot. So it's almost do or die time for Broadford, and I think they'll answer the call this weekend and get their first win for the season. Rockbank taking on Macedon this weekend at Ian Cowie Reserve. Had a chat with Gav Spall, the Rockbank coach, during the week as well, and he's been pretty impressed, especially last weekend, with his team's efforts, especially early in quarters. They're getting blown away though at the ends of quarters with very young side, and the last quarter of the game last week is where they really conceded some ground to Wallen in the end. Coming up against a good side like Macedon this weekend, can't afford to do that, and I've got a feeling Macedon are going to have a pretty comfortable win.
And that's where you look at the teams that are two opposite sides of the ledger. You've got Rockbank who just don't have the experience and also fitness to run out games, whereas Macedon, they're coaching, they're training over the pre-season. It's been evident in the last 3 games. They're running oversides in the final term, so they're getting better as the game gets on, and that's why it can get a little bit ugly. But you never know. Like I'm just really impressed with the amount of players that are actually coming into the Rockbank lineup and just adding just some good bodies in there.
And what Gav said, they keep finding players, they keep signing players, and they're starting to get some really good feeling going within the club. And he said all along, it's going to be development year this year. They're going to take some kicks this year, and they're doing that. But they're heading on the right path, I think, obviously, to get the club up and running. They're going to get a touch up this weekend, unfortunately, because Macedon, very, very good side at the moment, but things are looking okay. Maybe not on the surface, but definitely underneath for Rockbank.
And Ian Cowie's probably not the easiest ground to score a big hole of goals from either, so I think the margin won't be so bad.
It won't indeed. The last game, Wallen taking on Lansfield at Greenhill Reserve. This will be a ripper because Wallen, big win last week against Rockbank. Lansfield going very nicely indeed, thank you very much. At the moment, both teams very, very keen for the win here, and they'll both go in thinking they can win this game.
Yeah, it's going to be, well, I mean, you talk about Rupers with the Diggers.
This is nearly a match of the round.
I think so, and there's probably a bit more importance in this game as well, because this could be that valuable 4-point game that's going to have an impact later on in the season as well.
Yep.
Whoever wins here is going to take that handy advantage later on in the year. Sam Rick 9 of the best last week. He is in great touch.
Shootout.
Yeah, we'd like to see...
it's going to be one end, Johnny Kent at the other.
Yeah, well, at this stage, Johnny Kent's probably in the better form. He did kick a lazy try a couple of weeks ago. Kick 3 against a reasonably good Romsey backline as well.
Yep. So you're tipping?
I'm just going to have to go to the Tigers, really.
Yeah, Tigers for me as well. That's all the time we've got this week on the RDFL Footy Show. Before next week, we take it on the road again. A bit close to home for you, Yeendy, the Telstra store in Sunbury. The show's coming from next week. It'd be great to have a chat with everyone about interleague footy, and of course with Joseph Santoro and everyone down at the Telstra store, who are fantastic supporters and have been for a long, long time of the RDFL interleague competition.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to getting down there. I'll often head down to Sunbury Square and see the great man just doing the great work that he's doing. So always a good friendly face, very approachable. So looking forward to getting down there.
And we'll see you next week from the Telstra store in Sunbury, right here on the RDFL Footy Show.